The galaxy had always looked at humanity with a mixture of amusement and condescension, dismissing the species as inconsequential, fragile, and unremarkable, a minor blip on the cosmic stage that lacked the sophistication, military might, and technological depth of the great civilizations that dominated the interstellar council chambers where power and influence were wielded with absolute authority. And yet for all the arrogance and overconfidence of the council races, humans endured, thrived, and adapted with an uncanny resilience that no alien observer truly understood. A resilience born of millennia of conflict, survival, and innovation on a planet that tested every aspect of the human species with harsh climates, unpredictable weather, and relentless competition for resources, a crucible that forged instincts, creativity, and cooperation into a blend that allowed them to overcome adversity that would have crippled less resourceful species. And the first inkling of their latent capabilities came not through diplomacy or technological display, but through the unexpected and meticulous rise of humanity's independent initiatives across the stars, starting with the modest colonies that had been overlooked by every major galactic power, the outer worlds that lacked strategic significance, and whose inhabitants were considered pioneers of little consequence. Yet these colonies developed systems of defense, sustainable infrastructure, and ingenious communication networks that allowed them to flourish in isolation, their progress invisible to the Council because it did not conform to the patterns of expansion and dominance expected of a serious species. And when the first exploratory fleets sent to assess these worlds encountered humans, they were met with precision, coordination, and tactical awareness that exceeded the understanding of the observers. Ships that had been designed under the assumption of superior alien technology, faltering against strategies that were simple in appearance but devastating in execution. And the humans, aware of the growing scrutiny from the Council, had begun to systematically enhance their capabilities not in a showy manner, but through subtle improvements that emphasized adaptability, rapid problem-solving, and the integration of diverse scientific disciplines, merging propulsion technology with AI-guided tactical analysis, defensive systems with decentralized command protocols, and communications with predictive, behavioral modeling, creating a military and technological ecosystem that was greater than the sum of its parts. And while the Council debated trivialities and postured for influence in the outer sectors, humans quietly amassed resources, refined their fleets, and trained officers and specialists who could operate independently or as cohesive units with astonishing efficiency, the kind of efficiency that became painfully evident when the first true engagement occurred, a skirmish initially, dismissed by the Council as a minor border dispute, involving a human convoy and a mid-ranking alien patrol fleet. Yet what began as a routine encounter transformed into a demonstration of human ingenuity and ferocity, the convoy employing evasive maneuvers, feints, and precise strikes that decimated the patrol with minimal losses on the human side. The alien commanders left in disbelief at the audacity, coordination, and unexpected strength of the humans, and word of the engagement spread rapidly through the galactic networks, initially as rumors dismissed as exaggeration, but soon as verified reports, forcing the Council to acknowledge that the humans could not be ignored, a reality that many members met with denial, refusing to recalibrate their assumptions even as intelligence reports confirmed the humans' rapid expansion of tactical doctrines, innovations in energy weapons, and experimental propulsion systems that allowed them to engage or evade far more effectively than predicted. And as humans consolidated their outer colonies, they began to implement a philosophy that emphasized flexibility, adaptability, and decentralization, ensuring that no single strike could cripple their operations, that every officer understood both strategy and the capabilities of every vessel under their command, a doctrine that produced not only efficiency but a psychological advantage over species accustomed to rigid hierarchical commands. And as the first true human-led task, force move into contested space, they did so with a combination of calm calculation and deliberate unpredictability, confusing alien fleets that had been trained to anticipate traditional formations and attack patterns, the humans exploiting every weakness, turning the overconfidence of their opponents into tactical blunders that they then magnified with relentless precision, and the Council, initially incredulous, scrambled to respond, deploying larger fleets and more advanced ships, only to find that every engagement revealed another layer of human ingenuity, from electronic warfare that bypassed alien defenses to coordinated boarding maneuvers that neutralized superior firepower, and the aliens began to realize that humanity did not conform to their models, did not react predictably, and possessed a level of creativity and ruthlessness that could not be quantified. And as the humans advanced deeper into contested space, they were not just defeating alien fleets. They were dismantling the confidence of entire species, exposing weaknesses in command, communication, and strategy that had gone unchallenged for centuries. And this erosion of confidence spread faster than the human fleets themselves, creating an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty that the Council had never experienced. Debates that had once been abstract theoretical discussions about potential human threats became urgent deliberations on immediate strategy. The kind of deliberations that often concluded too late as humanity anticipated moved several steps ahead, reshaping the battlefield and the political landscape simultaneously. And within years, humans had turned what began as small, overlooked colonies into the nucleus of a formidable interstellar presence, not through brute force alone, but through the application of psychology, technology, logistics, and an unyielding drive to survive and excel. And as humans demonstrated the capability to coordinate multiple task forces across thousands of light years with near instantaneous efficiency, the alien powers came to understand that what they had dismissed as weakness was in fact an evolutionary advantage, a species shaped by adversity and sharpened by unpredictability, whose capacity to innovate, adapt, and endure defied conventional analysis. And when the first major battle between human forces and a coalition fleet, composed of 3 different alien species, occurred, the scale of human strategy became horrifyingly clear. The coalition fleet, expecting a traditional engagement, was subjected to a series of feints, ambushes, and diversions that left them disoriented and divided, while human vessels exploited these openings to strike with pinpoint accuracy, dismantling command ships, supply lines, and defensive stations in a sequence that seemed almost prescient. And the aliens, trained to dominate and dismiss any emerging threat, watched their numerical advantage crumble, not through luck, but through the relentless, calculated application of human ingenuity, determination, and coordinated action. And as news of this engagement reached the council chambers, shock gave way to panic. Proposals for negotiation were hastily drafted but rejected by field commanders who had witnessed firsthand the catastrophic consequences of underestimating humanity. And the humans, aware of their rising reputation, continued to advance with methodical precision, each victory building not only strategic advantage, but also a psychological aura that unsettled opponents even before battle commenced. And as humans seized control of key systems, the ripple effects transformed the political landscape of the galaxy. Previously dominant species found their influence waning. Alliances fractured under the weight of human unpredictability and tactical brilliance. And the very concept of supremacy was challenged as humans demonstrated the ability to combine strategic foresight, rapid innovation, and moral flexibility in ways that alien civilizations had never encountered or imagined. And within a decade, the galaxy that had laughed at humanity, that had dismissed them as insignificant and harmless, was left fractured, fearful, and irrevocably altered. The Council itself forced to acknowledge that humans were no longer a peripheral species, but the defining force of the era, a force whose rise had been silent, methodical, and unstoppable, and whose consequences would echo through every system, fleet, and political institution for generations to come, leaving the galaxy stunned and broken, not merely by the destruction of ships and stations, but by the revelation that the underestimated species had become the standard by which all others would be measured, and humanity, guided by leaders who had never sought conquest for its own sake, but had demanded survival, ingenuity, and respect, now stood at the center of a galaxy that had learned, often too late, that weakness had been an illusion, and that underestimation could carry consequences that no advanced technology or ancient empire could mitigate. The aftermath of humanity's first decisive victories rippled across the galaxy in ways no council member could have anticipated, as news of destroyed alien fleets, abandoned fortresses, and shattered alliances spread faster than any formal communication channel. And it became increasingly clear that humans were not content with mere survival or defensive posturing, but were actively reshaping the political and military landscape to reflect a new reality where their ingenuity, adaptability, and relentless determination defined the rules of engagement. And yet, even as humans consolidated power, they did so with a deliberate patience that confounded opponents, deploying reconnaissance vessels and small strike teams to probe weaknesses, observe enemy behavior, and gather intelligence that would later amplify the effectiveness of their major operations. And within this period, the human leadership structure revealed an extraordinary blend of meritocracy and decentralization, allowing commanders in disparate regions to make rapid, independent decisions that perfectly complemented overarching strategic objectives, creating a dynamic operational model that rendered the traditional hierarchical command structures of alien empires slow, inflexible, and disastrously ineffective. And the first large-scale engagement that truly tested this model involved a coordinated multi-front assault on a cluster of star systems under the nominal control of the Xylar Dominion, a species known for ruthless discipline and advanced energy weapons, whose fleets were renowned across multiple sectors for their overwhelming firepower and strict adherence to tactical doctrine. Yet when the humans approached, the Xylars found themselves unable to predict their movements, as strike groups executed simultaneous attacks from unexpected vectors. Electronic warfare disrupted communications across the fleet, and the precision of human maneuvers allowed them to neutralize key capital ships while leaving the smaller units temporarily immobilized. And the psychological effect of these operations was devastating, as entire fleets began to hesitate, second-guess orders, and ultimately fracture under pressure, with some Xylar commanders opting for retreat despite having numerical superiority, a decision that sowed confusion and dissent among allied species observing the conflict. And this cascading effect was compounded by humans' integration of adaptive AI systems that learned enemy patterns in real time, predicting responses and offering tactical solutions that were implemented instantly without the delay inherent in traditional chain-of-command decision-making. And as victories accumulated, the alien perception of humans shifted from mere curiosity to cautious respect, then to fear, and finally to disbelief, as the cumulative effect of tactical brilliance, technological innovation, and audacious execution repeatedly dismantled assumptions that had guided Galactic warfare for centuries. And at the same time, human scientists and engineers continued to advance propulsion technologies, energy weapon efficiency, and planetary defense systems, creating capabilities that allowed them to strike targets across light years with speed and accuracy that alien species had deemed impossible, while also fortifying their own worlds and colonies to withstand attacks that would have previously been catastrophic. And these defensive measures were designed not just for survival, but to enhance offensive strategy, forcing opponents to commit resources to assaults that were themselves traps, drawing fleets into engagements that played directly into human planning, a mastery of both deception and foresight that combined psychological and material warfare. And as the human sphere of influence expanded, species that had once assumed superiority found themselves diplomatically isolated, their alliances weakened by fear of human retaliation, and their trade networks disrupted by the strategic seizure of key hyperlane junctions. And the more the Council attempted to contain or counteract human expansion, the more evident became that humans were not merely reacting, but were shaping events according to their own vision, a vision informed by centuries of survival on a volatile world that demanded resourcefulness, cooperation, and rapid adaptation. And as a result, humans began to dictate the pace of interstellar conflict, forcing the galaxy to respond to their initiatives rather than controlling their own fates, a reality that produced profound cultural shock among alien civilizations accustomed to domination and predictable hierarchy. And in response, the Council authorized the formation of a grand coalition pooling fleets, intelligence, and advanced technology from multiple species, with the goal of confronting humanity in a massive, coordinated engagement that they believed would finally break the humans' momentum. Yet this decision, while ambitious, failed to account for the humans' unparalleled ability to integrate intelligence, adapt to unforeseen variables, and coordinate operations across vast distances with unmatched precision. And when the human leadership received confirmation of the coalition's mobilization, they approached the situation not with panic, but with meticulous strategy designed to exploit overconfidence, miscommunication, and the rigid doctrines that had previously ensured the coalition members' dominance. And when the battle began, it unfolded on multiple levels simultaneously, from deep space fleet encounters where humans leveraged superior maneuvering, electronic warfare, and predictive tactics, to planetary operations in which small specialized units neutralized orbital defenses, supply depots, and command centers in highly coordinated sequences that left defenders overwhelmed and disoriented. And the coordination extended beyond the physical battlefield. incorporating real-time adaptation to shifting enemy alliances, propaganda efforts to exploit distrust within coalition ranks, and strategic feints that lured forces into traps, all executed with a kind of precision and foresight that alien commanders could neither anticipate nor counteract. And as the battle escalated, it became apparent that humanity's rise was not defined merely by victories or technology, but by an unprecedented mastery of integrated strategy, psychological manipulation, and the ability to innovate under pressure, qualities that rendered traditional measures of military power irrelevant. And as one planet after another fell under human control or influence, the coalition began to unravel, species turning against each other in desperation, communication networks breaking down under the strain of unexpected tactical disruption, and every failed maneuver further amplified humans' advantage, establishing a self-reinforcing momentum that the Council could not halt. And while humans continued to advance, they also demonstrated a form of disciplined restraint, securing systems and populations without unnecessary devastation, winning not only military engagements but the loyalty or acquiescence of liberated populations, creating a foundation for lasting influence that went beyond fear. And in every report that reached the Council chambers, the same theme emerged. Humans were unpredictable, relentless, and overwhelmingly capable, possessing a combination of strategic brilliance, technological integration, and adaptive psychology that no single species had previously demonstrated. And as the coalition faced successive defeats, the Council was forced into increasingly desperate measures, deploying experimental weapons, seeking forbidden alliances, and authorizing extreme maneuvers that carried immense risk. Yet even these last-ditch efforts faltered under the humans' ability to anticipate and exploit every variable, turning desperation into advantage. And as the battlefront spread across multiple sectors, humans demonstrated not only mastery of warfare, but profound understanding of resource allocation, logistics, and morale management, ensuring that every unit, every fleet, and every colony contributed optimally to the overarching strategic objective. And with each successive triumph, the galaxy's perception of humanity transformed irrevocably from an underestimated species to an unstoppable force whose rise left the Council, the Coalition, and every other civilization stunned, fractured, and questioning centuries of assumptions about power, strategy, and the very nature of intelligence, until it became clear that humans were no longer simply participants in galactic affairs, but had emerged as the defining species of the era, a reality that would shape every conflict, alliance, and decision for generations to come. As humanity's influence spread across contested sectors, the scale of their operations became almost incomprehensible to alien observers who had long prided themselves on understanding galactic strategy. And yet, despite the enormity of their campaigns, humans operated with a level of coordination and cohesion that made even the largest fleets seem like single entities, each ship, station, and unit moving in harmony with others through a combination of preemptive planning, adaptive AI, integration, and the human ability to read patterns in complex and chaotic situations. And the consequences of these coordinated operations were profound, as entire enemy fleets, carefully designed and technologically superior, were rendered ineffective not by sheer numbers, but by humans' ability to manipulate the battlefield, anticipate moves, and exploit weaknesses in ways that alien species had never encountered. And during one pivotal engagement at the Helion Rift, a strategically critical cluster of star systems, the Coalition's largest assembly of combined alien forces was met with a human task force that, though smaller in size, exhibited near-perfect synchronization and tactical creativity, striking simultaneously from multiple vectors while employing electronic jamming, decoy formations, and coordinated boarding operations that disabled critical command hubs and supply chains, leaving the aliens paralyzed by confusion. And the psychological impact was as devastating as the physical, with Coalition commanders unable to predict human maneuvers, leading to panic, miscommunication, and fatal errors in judgment. And these failures cascaded to the ranks, further amplifying humanity's advantage, while human leaders observed, adapted, and deployed new strategies in real time, turning every alien misstep into an opportunity for decisive action. And beyond the battlefield, humans leveraged diplomacy, intelligence, and propaganda to weaken opposition coalitions, exploiting rivalries, past grievances, and fear to fragment alliances and undermine morale, ensuring that human victories were reinforced not only through combat, but through strategic manipulation of the galactic political environment. And as these campaigns progressed, the Council began to grasp, albeit with reluctance, that the species they had dismissed as primitive and inconsequential was now shaping the future of the galaxy, forcing a reevaluation of every assumption about technology, tactics, and the nature of intelligence. And even as human fleet expanded, they maintained a culture of rigorous training, rapid innovation, and cross-disciplinary collaboration, producing officers, engineers, scientists, and tacticians capable of operating independently, while contributing to a larger, unified effort, creating a force multiplier that no rigid hierarchical command structure could match. And the technological advancements achieved during this period were staggering, ranging from hyper-efficient propulsion systems capable of outrunning pursuit across interstellar distances, to energy weapons and defensive shields that could adapt in real time to alien attack patterns, to AI systems that could predict enemy behavior with unprecedented accuracy. And when these capabilities were combined with the human psychological insight and strategic patience, the result was a species whose combat and diplomatic presence became simultaneously omnipresent and unpredictable, leaving alien civilizations struggling to adapt, often too late, as humans continuously outmaneuvered, outthought, and outlasted them in both open conflict and subversive operations. And as the human sphere of influence grew, entire regions once considered secure under alien dominion began to defect or surrender preemptively, recognizing that resistance was futile and that cooperation offered the only viable path to survival. And even the most hardened and disciplined alien commanders began to question their doctrines, unable to reconcile centuries of training with the reality of a species that refused to conform to conventional understanding. And amidst these campaigns, human leadership continued to emphasize not just military superiority, but also logistical mastery, securing supply lines, planetary resources, and communication networks with foresight that prevented bottlenecks or vulnerabilities, while simultaneously launching strategic offensives that maintained relentless pressure on opponents, eroding both morale and material capability. And the alien perception of time itself seemed to shift as humans executed multi-sector operations in sequences that left opponents perpetually reactive, always a step behind, unable to anticipate the next phase. And the cumulative effect of these victories extended far beyond the immediate destruction of fleets and outposts, altering the political, economic, and cultural landscape of entire regions, forcing species that had once considered themselves masters of the galaxy to reassess their priorities, alliances, and even existential strategies. And when the first attempts to negotiate with humanity were initiated, they were met with measured pragmatism, as human leaders weighed both opportunity and risk, demonstrating an understanding of galactic politics that rivaled their tactical genius, ensuring that diplomacy reinforced their position rather than undermining it. And as humans consolidated their gains, they also turned their attention to the development of multi-purpose fleets capable of rapid redeployment across thousands of light years, combining offensive, defensive, reconnaissance, and support roles into highly modular formations, a concept alien civilizations struggled to comprehend or counter effectively. And these fleets, guided by human officers trained in both strategy and adaptability, executed campaigns that seemed almost prescient, neutralizing threats before they could materialize while maintaining a strategic reserve to exploit unexpected opportunities. And as humans continue to expand, they also developed the ability to manipulate alien technological systems, reverse engineering enemy designs, and integrating them into human operations in ways that enhance their capabilities while simultaneously sowing confusion and fear among their adversaries. And with each new victory, the humans' reputation grew, a phenomenon that the Council could neither contain nor credibly refute, creating a psychological advantage that often preceded the physical arrival of human forces. And when reports of these campaigns reached the central chambers of the Galactic Council, panic, disbelief, and denial battled against the mounting evidence that humanity was no longer an emerging species, but the preeminent force in the galaxy, a species whose rise was methodical, relentless, and unstoppable, leaving every other civilization to grapple with the stark reality that their assumptions about intelligence, strategy, and superiority had been catastrophically flawed. And as the humans' influence extended deeper into previously uncontested sectors, alien civilizations faced the dual threats of military defeat and the erosion of credibility among their own populations. as the human model of innovation, coordination, and adaptive strategy undermined traditional doctrines and exposed weaknesses that have been hidden for centuries, and the cumulative effect of these campaigns, both tactical and psychological, created a galaxy-wide reassessment of what power truly meant, as humans demonstrated that superiority was not determined solely by numbers, technology, or tradition, but by creativity, adaptability, and the capacity to learn and exploit every situation. And by the time the Council attempted to mount a unified response, it was clear that humanity had transformed the very nature of galactic engagement, establishing themselves as the central force upon which the balance of power now rested, leaving the galaxy stunned, fractured, and irrevocably changed, with every empire, coalition, and independent species forced to confront the undeniable truth that underestimating humanity had been the gravest error in galactic history. As humanity's campaigns progressed deeper into contested and previously secure territories, the sheer scale of their operations became a phenomenon that defied any conventional understanding of warfare or strategy, as multiple human task forces, each numbering in the hundreds of ships and coordinated across vast interstellar distances, executed simultaneous offensives that dismantled entire sectors of alien infrastructure with a precision and efficiency that left even the most seasoned galactic strategists bewildered. And the success of these operations was not merely due to numerical or technological superiority, but emerged from the humans' unparalleled ability to integrate diverse disciplines, science, logistics, psychology, and tactical innovation, into a seamless operational doctrine that allowed them to anticipate enemy movements, exploit weaknesses in real time, and convert small engagements into cascading victories that systematically eroded alien morale, command cohesion, and territorial control. And as the humans advanced, the alien civilizations began to experience the psychological impact of facing an opponent whose capabilities exceeded expectation at every turn. As fleets retreated prematurely, supply lines collapsed under unexpected interdiction, and commanders were forced to make split-second decisions in a battlefield environment where even minor errors were ruthlessly exploited. And despite the escalating scale of conflict, humans maintained strict operational discipline, ensuring that collateral damage was minimized, occupied systems were stabilized, and civilian populations were protected whenever possible, a deliberate strategy that contrasted sharply with the often destructive approach of alien forces, and earned humans grudging respect, acquiescence, or outright loyalty from many conquered systems, further amplifying their sphere of influence and consolidating their position in ways that went beyond military victories. And as these campaigns unfolded, the Galactic Council, which had once dismissed humanity as insignificant, was compelled to convene emergency sessions, attempting to coordinate multi-species responses, deploy experimental weaponry, and even consider alliances with previously neutral powers. Yet every initiative was undermined by the humans' anticipatory planning, adaptive execution, and ability to exploit bureaucratic inertia and overconfidence, leaving the Council in a perpetual state of crisis management, scrambling to respond to a threat that consistently redefined the rules of engagement. And during one of the most significant confrontations of the Cerium Expanse, humans faced a coalition of 3 major species, each commanding technologically advanced fleets and relying on centuries of combined experience and doctrine. Yet despite the overwhelming firepower arrayed against them, the humans executed a series of feints, ambushes, and diversionary attacks that fractured the coalition's cohesion before a single decisive engagement occurred, as autonomous human vessels maneuvered with coordination that was simultaneously decentralized and perfectly synchronized, exploiting gaps in communications, targeting command nodes, and isolating key elements of the coalition fleet, while specialized boarding units neutralized critical systems, further amplifying chaos. And the cumulative effect of these tactics was catastrophic, as coalition forces not only suffered heavy losses but were psychologically destabilized, leading to miscalculations, friendly fire incidents, and outright retreats, events that even alien historians would later struggle to fully comprehend. And while the battlefield unfolded, human scientists, engineers, and intelligence officers worked in tandem to ensure that every engagement provided data for continuous improvement, refining tactics, enhancing weapon efficiency, and updating predictive models to account for enemy adaptation, creating a feedback loop of operational evolution that left adversaries perpetually one step behind. And as word of these victories spread, the fear of humans permeated sectors previously considered secure, undermining confidence, destabilizing alliances, and creating a ripple effect that extended far beyond direct military confrontation, influencing trade, diplomacy, and even internal politics within alien civilizations. And as humans pushed further, the Galactic Council, desperate to contain the unprecedented rise of a species they had long ignored, authorized the deployment of the Titan fleet, the largest single assembly of ships ever mustered, incorporating the most advanced technology, experimental weaponry, and elite personnel from multiple species, with the expectation that this overwhelming show of force would finally halt or destroy human advances. Yet even this monumental effort was met with human ingenuity as reconnaissance teams identified weaknesses in fleet formation, exploited predictable patterns in command coordination, and executed precise strikes that neutralized key vessels before the bulk of the fleet could effectively respond, while human tactical AI provided predictive solutions to battlefield conditions in real time, allowing human commanders to anticipate movements, coordinate multi-pronged attacks, and respond instantly to unforeseen developments. And as the engagement reached its climax, the Titan fleet, despite its size, technology, and experience, suffered catastrophic losses, disorganized and unable to respond to the adaptive and highly integrated human strategies. And the psychological impact was equally devastating, as alien commanders realized that numerical superiority, experimental technology, and centuries of doctrine could not counteract a species whose adaptability, creativity, and operational cohesion were fundamentally unmatched. And in the wake of this battle, entire sectors capitulated without further resistance. Populations within previously hostile systems offering support to human forces in recognition of their unassailable strategic and operational capabilities, further consolidating influence and demonstrating that humanity's rise was not merely a series of victories, but complete transformation of galactic power dynamics. And as humans advanced, they continued to exploit both military and political strategies, integrating liberated systems into governance and logistics networks, ensuring stability and converting acquired resources into both offensive and defensive advantages, while simultaneously demonstrating a level of ethical consideration that challenged alien perceptions of humanity as a purely destructive force, creating a dual reality in which humans were both feared and respected, a combination that left adversaries uncertain, hesitant, and increasingly ineffective. And as the years passed, it became clear that the humans' methods were not simply opportunistic, but represented a comprehensive philosophy of adaptability, foresight, and integration, one that leveraged intelligence, creativity, and resilience to achieve objectives that no alien species had previously conceived possible. And in every engagement, whether across hyperspace lanes, in orbital conflicts, or on planetary surfaces, humans demonstrated the ability to synchronize multidisciplinary operations, anticipate enemy adaptation, and exploit both material and psychological vulnerabilities, leaving a trail of devastation for opponents, while simultaneously establishing frameworks for governance, resource management, and technological integration that ensured long-term sustainability. And as the Council struggled to respond, debates that had once focused on minor policy differences became existential deliberations about survival and relevance, as the galaxy collectively confronted the realization that humanity was no longer an emergent species, but the defining force shaping the course of interstellar history, a species whose rise had been methodical, relentless, and unstoppable, leaving every empire, alliance, and civilization stunned, fractured, and irrevocably altered. As humanity pressed further into previously unchallenged sectors of the galaxy, the scope and ambition of their operations reached unprecedented levels, with task forces coordinating simultaneous campaigns across dozens of star systems, each operation meticulously planned to integrate reconnaissance, logistics, and offensive action, allowing humans to strike with precision at critical nodes while maintaining flexibility to adapt to unforeseen developments. And as alien civilizations attempted to respond, they encountered a level of coordination and foresight that shattered conventional military expectations, as fleets designed to overwhelm were neutralized through combined electronic warfare, predictive tactical AI, and human ingenuity in both fleet maneuvers and planetary operations. And the psychological impact on alien forces was profound, As commanders realized that their centuries-old doctrines and technological superiority were insufficient against a species that consistently outmaneuvered, outthought, and outpaced them, and amidst this escalating conflict, humans demonstrated not only military genius but strategic patience, deliberately shaping engagements to maximize disruption, sow confusion among coalition forces, and exploit weaknesses in infrastructure, communication, and command hierarchies, while simultaneously securing newly liberated systems, stabilizing populations, and integrating conquered territories into human logistical networks to support further operations. In the Council, increasingly desperate, scrambled to marshal resources, unify fractured alliances, and deploy experimental technologies. Yet every initiative was anticipated and countered by humans, who leveraged intelligence, predictive modeling, and deep understanding of enemy psychology to turn potential threats into opportunities for decisive action. And when the Battle of the Varian Cluster unfolded, a confrontation involving multiple alien superpowers coordinating the largest offensive yet against humanity, the humans executed a series of preemptive strikes, feints, and diversions that fractured the coalition even before full engagement, as specialized units targeted command ships, communication arrays, and supply lines, while the main fleet engaged in synchronized maneuvers that rendered superior firepower ineffective, and the result was catastrophic for the coalition, with entire formations destroyed, key planets occupied, and alien morale shattered, leading to surrender or retreat on an unprecedented scale. And throughout these campaigns, human technological integration continued to advance, combining adaptive shields, high-efficiency energy weapons, AI-guided fleet coordination, and rapid logistical support to create a force capable of overwhelming opponents through both ingenuity and speed. And the cumulative effect of these victories was not only territorial expansion, but the erosion of confidence, alliances, and control among alien species, as fear of humanity undermined cohesion, diplomacy, and command, forcing civilizations to question centuries of assumptions about strategy, intelligence, and supremacy. And as humans consolidated gains, they simultaneously applied political acumen, establishing governance structures, trade networks, and communication systems that allowed newly acquired regions to function efficiently, contributing to further operational strength, while demonstrating a level of administrative capability that reinforced their dominance and stabilized occupied sectors. And as this process continued, humans' ability to integrate military, technological, and political strategy became apparent to all observers, establishing them as a species whose influence extended beyond simple conquest to the reshaping of galactic order. And when the Council attempted to launch the Omega Initiative, a plan combining all remaining resources of the most powerful civilizations into a single, overwhelming effort to contain humanity, the humans countered with an unprecedented demonstration of adaptive strategy, dividing their forces to engage multiple fronts while simultaneously exploiting weaknesses in the coalition's coordination, supply chains, and communications, turning numerical and technological superiority into a liability for their adversaries. And as the initiative unfolded, entire fleets were neutralized before they could deploy, critical infrastructure destroyed or captured, and alien morale plummeted, leaving the Council's efforts not only ineffective but accelerating the humans' momentum. And the ripple effects of these victories extended across trade networks, political alliances, and cultural perceptions, as previously dominant species were forced into surrender, collaboration, or withdrawal, their influence diminishing while humans established dominance through both direct control and strategic integration. And in the wake of these campaigns, the galaxy witnessed the emergence of a human sphere of influence that spanned thousands of light years, interconnected through logistics, communication, and military coordination, with liberated populations contributing resources, intelligence, and manpower to support further expansion, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of strategic advantage, technological development, and psychological dominance. And as humans consolidated control, their philosophy of combined adaptability, foresight, and integration became evident in every operation, demonstrating that victory was achieved not merely through firepower or numbers, but through the mastery of coordination, innovation, and understanding of both material and psychological dimensions of warfare. And as alien civilizations struggled to comprehend this unprecedented rise, the Council convened emergency summits, desperately seeking solutions, alliances, and forbidden technologies that might halt human expansion. Yet every attempt was met with counter-strategy, deception, and precision, further cementing the humans' reputation as an unstoppable and unpredictable force. And the cumulative effect of decades of campaigns, both military and administrative, left the galaxy stunned, fractured, and irrevocably transformed, with humans emerging as a defining species whose rise had rewritten the rules of power, strategy, and survival, leaving every civilization to grapple with the consequences of underestimating a species whose ingenuity, adaptability, and relentless determination had proven superior to all expectations, and whose continued ascent promised to shape the future of the galaxy for generations to come, solidifying their place not merely as victors in a series of conflicts, but as architects of an entirely new order, leaving the galaxy stunned and broken in a way that would resonate through history. Following decades of relentless expansion, the humans had transformed the very fabric of galactic power, establishing a presence that no civilization could ignore, and as alien species attempted to regroup, reorganize, and formulate countermeasures, they were confronted with a level of adaptability, foresight, and integration that left traditional doctrines irrelevant, as human fleets, colonies, and intelligence networks operated in perfect synergy, combining offensive, defensive, and logistical operations across vast distances with speed, precision, and a capacity to anticipate and exploit every conceivable weakness. And during the campaign of the THRYNN Rift, a major strategic choke point critical to interstellar trade and military operations, humans executed an unprecedented operation involving coordinated strikes from multiple vectors, simultaneous boarding and sabotage missions, and adaptive electronic countermeasures that disrupted enemy command, coordination, and communications, rendering even technologically superior fleets vulnerable, while human logistics ensured that reinforcements, supplies, and repairs were available almost instantaneously across light years of distance. And the psychological impact on alien forces was profound, as commanders realized that even their most advanced vessels and weapons were insufficient against a species that refused predictability, consistently innovated under pressure, and coordinated complex multi-domain operations with unity of purpose that no single alien species had ever achieved. And as humans captured critical systems, stabilized populations, and integrated liberated territories into an expanding network of governance and supply, they simultaneously continued to refine doctrine, combining lessons learned from every engagement into an ever-evolving strategy that amplified effectiveness, minimized risk, and maintained momentum, ensuring that every victory reinforced both operational capability and the psychological advantage that had become central to humanity's rise. And as a galactic council convened emergency summits to address the unprecedented situation, they faced internal strife, dissent, and distrust as coalition partners debated the viability of continued resistance, weighed the risks of betrayal, and questioned long-held assumptions about military superiority and strategy, while human diplomats and intelligence operatives subtly manipulated these tensions, deepening fractures within the council and further reducing the effectiveness of any coordinated opposition. And during the siege of Koroth Prime, humans demonstrated the full integration of military, technological, and administrative mastery, deploying multi-role fleets capable of simultaneous planetary assault, orbital defense suppression, and deep space interdiction, coordinated by predictive AI and human commanders with near-telepathic understanding of their own forces and the enemy's likely responses. And as the siege progressed, alien resistance crumbled, with entire fleets retreating or surrendering, fortresses falling to precise orbital strikes, and planetary defenses neutralized with minimal human casualties, further reinforcing perception that humans were not only capable of defeating superior forces, but of orchestrating outcomes with surgical precision. And beyond the battlefield, humans continued to extend influence through political integration, strategic infrastructure development, and ethical governance that contrasted with the often destructive methods of alien powers, earning cooperation or compliance from populations who recognize the inevitability and stability of human administration. And as alien species witnessed the collapse of previously invincible fleets and fortifications, panic spread through command structures, with strategic planning giving way to reactive measures, miscommunication, and mistakes, allowing humans to exploit both material and psychological vulnerability simultaneously. And in this environment, human technological innovation continued unabated, integrating captured alien systems, enhancing energy weapons, propulsion, shields, and fleet coordination, while AI-driven predictive analysis allowed humans to anticipate adaptations and countermeasures before they were implemented, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of advantage. And as the humans advanced, their strategy extended beyond immediate military gains to long-term structural dominance, incorporating resource control, infrastructure development, and regional governance into every campaign, ensuring that victory was sustainable and that resistance, even if attempted, would encounter layers of preparation and foresight designed to neutralize it. And as the Galactic Council attempted to consolidate the remaining loyalist forces for a final unified confrontation, they found themselves fragmented, distrustful, and hesitant with each species, questioning whether cooperation could even be achieved in the face of human force that had repeatedly defied logic, expectation, and precedent. And when the humans engaged these remaining coalition forces at the Battle of the Trivax Expanse, they executed a series of simultaneous, multi-front maneuvers that leveraged superior intelligence, coordination, and adaptability, neutralizing fleet concentrations, isolating command ships, and exploiting gaps in coalition formation, resulting in the complete disintegration of the final organized resistance. And the psychological shock reverberated through the galaxy as alien civilizations came to understand that their combined might, technological superiority, and centuries of strategic experience were insufficient to halt a species that had mastered adaptability, integration, and relentless innovation. And in the aftermath, humans not only secured territorial control, but fundamentally reshaped the galactic political, economic, and military landscape, establishing dominance not merely through force of arms, but through an unprecedented combination of strategy, diplomacy, and infrastructure, creating a network of influence that ensured long-term supremacy while maintaining stability and governance. And as the Council dissolved into disarray, failing to coordinate any effective resistance, the galaxy collectively acknowledged that humanity's rise was complete, a species whose ingenuity, determination, and resilience had surpassed all expectations and whose presence now defined the rules, strategies, and balance of power, leaving civilization stunned, fractured, and irrevocably altered, as the realization spread that underestimating humans had been the gravest error in galactic history, and that the consequences of their rise would shape the future of the galaxy for centuries, leaving humanity not merely victorious, but as a singular, dominant force whose strategic, technological, and psychological mastery had rewritten the rules of interstellar engagement. With the collapse of organized alien resistance and the disintegration of the Galactic Council's authority, humanity's rise reached its ultimate crescendo, as every system that had once doubted their capabilities now recognized that the species was not merely powerful, but fundamentally transformative, a force capable of reshaping political, military, and economic landscapes across light years of space. And the final consolidation of power involved not only the occupation of key systems and strategic choke points, but the establishment of a governance framework that leveraged human ingenuity, logistics, and adaptability to maintain order, integrate diverse populations, and ensure sustainability, creating a network of interstellar coordination that allowed humans to respond instantaneously to emerging threats, manage resources efficiently, and optimize fleet deployment in ways that alien civilizations had never imagined possible. And even as humans celebrated their victories, they continued to innovate, advancing propulsion systems, energy weapons, defensive technologies, and predictive AI in parallel with diplomatic initiatives that secured loyalty or cooperation from formerly hostile populations, further solidifying their position. And as the implications of their rise reverberated across the galaxy, alien species struggled to comprehend the speed, scope, and depth of humanity's dominance, as centuries of assumed superiority, technological advantage, and strategic doctrine proved inadequate against a species whose adaptability, creativity, and cohesion had repeatedly outmaneuvered and outperformed them. And the psychological impact of this realization was profound, as civilizations confronted the reality that their influence, power, and traditions were subordinate to a human-led order whose authority was both undeniable and unchallengeable. And throughout this period, humans continued to demonstrate not only military acumen, but moral and administrative sophistication, establishing systems of governance, trade, communication, and defense that reinforced stability, productivity, and cooperation, creating an empire whose strength derived as much from strategic foresight and integrated planning as from battlefield victories. And as humans expanded, They maintained the discipline, focus, and ethical consideration that had become the hallmark of their rise, ensuring that their dominance was sustainable, respected, and deeply felt even by former adversaries. And while alien species continued to exist, they were forced to adapt to a new reality in which humanity dictated the terms of engagement, set the standards of technological innovation, and controlled the flow of interstellar resources, trade, and military influence. And in the process, humans became the defining reference point for every civilization, the species against which all others measured progress, capability, and survival. And as centuries passed, the narrative of humanity's rise became legend, recorded in every star system, analyzed in every council, and studied by every species seeking to understand the unprecedented combination of resilience, ingenuity, adaptability, and strategic mastery that enabled a previously dismissed and underestimated species to become the singular dominant force in the galaxy, a force that had not only defeated fleets, outmaneuvered alliances, and captured worlds, but had fundamentally reshaped the understanding of power, strategy, and survival in the cosmos, leaving the galaxy stunned, broken, and irrevocably transformed by the species that had risen from obscurity to redefine the very nature of interstellar civilization, a species whose legacy would endure across the stars, a testament to the indomitable spirit, creativity, and relentless drive that had made humanity the ultimate arbiter of galactic destiny.